Hello everyone. I am Sakshi Thakur from Sisters Living Works. I'm a psychologist and a program coordinator working with SLW for a while now. And today we have Miss Neha Dalal ma'am, who is a professor of psychology at Raheja College, and she is also a psychologist. She has been with the SLW for a long while now, and we will always be grateful for her work and her contribution towards the cause of suicide prevention. So, Neha ma'am, thank you so much for being here today for Mental Health Week.
It's my pleasure, it's my privilege. Thank you so much, Shakshi, for inviting me for this. Thank you once again.
Of course. So today we will be talking about coping and hope in exam stress.
Mhm.
So as we know, students always go through a lot of stress, whether it may be academics or family issues or relationships, friendships,
Yes,
social media, peer pressure. So we'll be covering a bit of that today from an more of an academic perspective, right? How
correct.
students face a lot of stress, especially during exam season. So there are
Mm.
board exam students, and there are post graduation, then there's NEET and GE. So a lot of competitive exam comes into play when we talk about student stress,
Mm.
right?
Yes. So, basically, in terms of exam stress, I think the stress level increases a lot when, like you said, that it's a board exam or the last year of the exam. So, like basically, so let me just tell you what I'm sure everybody knows this, but just to kind of break it down so that we are on the same page. Stress is what your body responses. It's a physiological, cognitive, behavioral, emotional response that you have to an event which is there. So the event which causes stress is the stressor. So when I talk about exam stress, I am assuming that my exams are the event which are causing stress to me. So exam is a stressor. And generally, the response of stress comes in when we feel that we do not have the capacity, we do not have the cognitive, emotional capacity to deal with what the life throws or what the event is throwing at me. So it becomes a little challenging. So when I talk about exam stress per se, exams can result in a stress, can create a stress response in couple of scenarios. One scenario can be a student is not prepared for the exam. Okay, that is one of the basic scenarios where they have not studied what they needed to study. It could also be that the subjects that they have taken up are very challenging. Okay, so for them, it is very, so this subject is challenging. Some subjects are easy, some subjects are challenging. So if they find that the subject is very challenging for me, that can result in stress. However, I find that most stress is with the unpredictability of the results. Like, even if a student has studied everything, it doesn't guarantee that they will get the kind of results that they are expecting, because there are a lot more factors involved in the results. So I think somewhere the ability to deal with the unpredictability factor of what is going to be the result of my exam is what leads to stress for the person, for the students. So they have this idea that, okay, I have studied so much, so I will get an O grade or I will get an A grade, whatever it is that they are wanting to get. But they also know somewhere, even after studying, that it is not necessarily given that if they have studied that they will get, and that is something that can give stress to them because it's something that is unpredictable, it is not in my hands.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And we'll move on to the first question. You've already talked in brief about how it works. So I'll just ask
Yeah.
you the first question. How would you define exam stress from a psychological perspective?
Yeah, I think I just answered that question right now for you. Like, it's all about the perception of uncontrollability. That's what I feel results in stress to students. So,
Okay.
I think that is about it. That's about it. Yeah,
Yes, because it also talks about how a perception of the event really matters when someone is stressed
exactly.
out.
Exactly. So let me give you, like, thank you so much for bringing this point out, perception of the event and why that matters a lot. Because, say, for example, I I had a couple of students in the third year who were not really stressed out at all. And they were really very, if I were to use the student terminology, very chilled about it. So like when we were talking, and I was like telling this person that, I'm sure you have studied and you're okay. And this person, they just told me, you know what, I have my father's business and I'm really not wanting to do anything, out of this. So there was this idea that this event is not, the results are not so important for me. So this event, because it is not so important for me, it did not create that much stress. So one exam can create a lot of stress for some people. It may not create a stress at all for other people, because it's the perception. If people feel that their life completely hangs on to this, and unfortunately with a lot of competitive exams like NEET, or like CA exams, where they literally bank their entire life and career, and like on this exam, so that would give tremendous amount of stress on that person.
Yes, again, that's the perception of the event and also how social factors
Exactly.
play the role in that perception.
Correct. That perception of the event, yes. So depends on that. That's how exam stress, I think, actually works. Yeah.
Yes. So, let's move on to the second question. As you've mentioned that you talked to a few students during exams, so third year students. So, I would like to ask, in your experience, what are some common misconceptions students or parents have about exam stress?
Yeah. So, exam stress. Okay, first, if I'm talking about the misconceptions with relation to exam stress, is I have noticed, like some people, matlab, at least some of the parents that I've spoken to, when we have parent teacher meeting, they're like, ये बंदे को जरा भी स्ट्रेस ही नहीं है, वो कुछ उसको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, they are not studying. Now this can be very deceptive. A person who comes across as having no stress could be actually very, very stressed from inside. So, there is this misconception that comes up, like, if you're stressed, the person will be like crying or struggling, or like, there will be like obvious signs that I can see. But that is not necessarily true. Even a person who looks as like they are not stressed could be very stressed from inside, and they might be so stressed sometimes that opening the books can be overwhelming. So parents sometimes say that उसको stress ही नहीं है, वो book लेके बैठता ही नहीं है, वो पढ़ाई ही नहीं करता है. But when you spend some time with the student, you realize that in fact they are so extremely stressed that just opening the book and seeing that there are so many things that I have to learn can be very overwhelming. And the best way to deal with it is to just close the book and like watch a show or scroll on your phone or something of that sort. So, not the one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about exam stress is that there will be a physical show or physical sign that they will see, and just looking at somebody you will come to know, oh, this person is stressed, this person is not stressed at all. So it's not necessarily true.
Yes, and also if people like parents or anyone around them are aware of how to spot signs of intense stress, they might get to
Yes.
see that. For example,
So,
if a student plays more video games like compulsively too much,
correct.
or if engages in any impulsive acts like reckless driving or getting into risky situations.
even some Even something very simple like Sakshi, their food consumption increases a lot more than they would. That is also a sign of stress, or so not going. So if say for example, if they were going out a lot, meeting their friends, going down, talking, they are not studying. They are sitting at home, but they are just eating. Constant, mindless watching TV is also a sign of stress. So, if you were to spot signs with children, even it doesn't have to be a very drastic, a very subtle signs could also be there where they would suggest that this person is actually going through a lot of stress. Like change in eating and sleeping habits is one thing that can be like very clear picture of person going through stress. So even though there's a study break, the person is not studying but not able to sleep or sleeping all the time, not being able to eat or eating, I feel is one of the telltale signs of stress, I feel.
Yes, because cortisol hormones, stress hormones increase, and then when cortisol
Yes,
increases, you want to indulge more. You start to crave.
yes.
So if you indulge more, and then it might also lead to weight loss or just dysregulated
Weight
eating
gain.
pattern.
Yes, dysregulated eating patterns, dysregulated sleeping patterns. So it may not come across in a way that people expect stress to be shown. That is that is one of the misconceptions. I just want to add one more mis thing that I'm sure it will come up later on also. Is a lot of parents and students, they believe that this is it. This is the end all of my life, and this is where my either I am like I'm going to sail through, or I'm going to be on roads. Very catastrophic extreme thinking patterns I see. And this also results in a lot of stress. It's almost like if I don't clear this exam, or if I don't get A grade in the exam, like it sounds a little funny to put it, but it's almost like I'll be on roads, like that kind of, and that leads to a lot of stress. That leads to a lot of pressure and a lot of stress.
That was definitely very anxiety provoking, and it's almost
Correct.
as if they're projecting their fears onto the child. It will definitely hamper their confidence
Yes,
and how they look at
correct.
challenges. So it also impacts resilience.
Correct. Very true. Very true. So, like I have been talking about this a lot to my students, and like I've mentioned this couple of times. My daughter right now is in 10th grade, and she's having her own struggles and her own stress with the exams. And she's a very sincere student. She does her work, and I don't have to really see that way. Very independent girl that way. But once she asked me, Mama, what if I don't do well in the exams? I'm like, do the exam again. Like, so you have one board exam in Feb. You can do one again in, like, if you don't feel that you have done enough, well, then you can do it in April. Worst case scenario, take 6 months break, give the exam again. It's big deal. It's just you're just 15 right now. It's not like your entire life hangs on thread on this exam. And I believe that this is true of all exams. It's not necessarily just 10th. It's true of all exams. Even if it was say NEET exam, where I understand parents, they spend a lot of money on their tuitions and everything. And if firstly, is it truly what the child wants to do? And if truly this is what the child wants to do, but one exam is cannot be all and end all of your life. It cannot.
Hmm. Yes. So let's move on to perfectionism. Perfectionism, being
Hmm.
perfect. Yes, I have to score 95. I have to score 98. So in many cases, perfectionism plays a very big role in exams,
Correct.
exam anxiety, exam stress, expectations. So how can young people shift from perfectionism to a mindset of self-compassion and progress?
Yeah. So this comes a lot from like from family background, the cultural background that you're in, and also your own belief system also plays a very important role. But especially if I'm talking about young kids, fortunately, unfortunately, or even for that matter, college kids. Fortunately, unfortunately, it depends a lot on the family environment and how much of importance is given to each of the exam or the percentage that you get. Now, I understand that the higher the percentage you get in an exam, the more doors open for you. Like, I'm not naive. I'm not going to say that the percentage that you get in your exam doesn't matter. It is not that. It is true that, yeah, let us be honest about it. Especially in certain fields. I'm not talking about this in every field, but in certain fields, at least, like certain competitive fields, the percentage that you get does matter, like whether you will get the place of study that you want, or you will not get, or the course that you want, or you will not get the course. So I understand that it is required. However, Once again, I would like to say that, nothing can be more important than your physical and your mental health. And, you can always try again if you feel that, if you've not got 98% or 97%, you can try again. And I go by this motto, and I have given this to my students also at TY level. So I will give you one, anecdote. Like I had, we as matlab, as I am the teacher and I've spent some time with my students, and I get to understand that what is their capacity like, and how much they can, if they put in effort, how much percentage they can get. And we had one student who was diagnosed as having learning disability, so he definitely had much more challenges than other students. And he got A grade, and I was so proud of him. And there was another student who got a little more percentage than him, but I was like, you could have done better. And that student came and told me, ma'am, उसको आपने ये इतने परसेंटेज में बोला, आई एम वेरी प्राउड ऑफ यू, और मुझे बोल रहे हो कि आप थोड़ा कर सकते थे. तो आई सेड, बिकॉज आई सॉ द एफर्ट. This person put in so much of effort, and it's the effort that matters. Okay, you could have easily put, if you put in a little, matlab, you, there was a chance for you to put in more effort. So I tell my students this. So if they had exams, say on 20th of a month, almost always after the exam they're like, oh, you know और 10 दिन मिलता तो मैं और अच्छे से पढ़ाई कर सकती थी. So I tell my students that if you have studied, और मैंने को और 10 दिन मिलता तो मैं और पढ़ाई अच्छी कर लेती थी, कर लेती. I said, if you have put in that much effort that you feel कि मेरे को और 5 महीने मिलते तो भी this is the effort that I could have put in, then this is it. It's always about the effort and not about the result. So how can I get self compassion? Firstly, I know it sounds, like cliche, but again, results are not in your hands. So, not focusing so much on results, 98%, 96%, not so much. Just put in your effort. And also, in putting effort, I also want to say another things. Uh, so, some amount of compassion for yourself is important. I remember that, yeah, I remember that, like, again, I'm giving you my daughter's examples because right now, she's in 10th grade and she's going through this, so it's like very fresh in my mind. So I remember that she was studying a lot, and it went through it. It was going on for quite some time, and she hadn't taken a break at all. And then she was very frustrated. She's like, Mom, I'm not able to study the way I was. So I told her a story. I told her that, there was this a tree cutter who was extremely hardworking. And he was the first one to go in the forest and start cutting the trees. And he would start at like 8 in the morning and cut till like 9. And he was the one who would cut the maximum amount of trees, and everybody was happy. And as the days went by, if he was cutting like, say, 10 trees, it went to like 5 and then 4. And this guy is getting frustrated, and he's like, what is happening? He's not taking any break in between, nothing. He's working really hard. He's putting in more effort, in fact. So then he went to the supervisor. So the supervisor just asked him one question. What was the last time you sharpened your X? So I told this story to my daughter just to reiterate the fact that sometimes sharpening of X is important. So if you just keep on studying or just doing that, taking a break so that you renew, or you get your resources back again, your energy back again, that's also very important. So having that kind of self compassion, that okay, like, it's okay if I'm not studying throughout the day, or it's okay if I didn't get 97%, I got 95, or I got 80, or I got 70. So that kind of radical acceptance of yourself and of situation is something that can be brought on by telling that this is what it is more important. I hope that answers your question, Sakshi.
Yes, it's a nice story, and it reminds us how sometimes we just stop at the moment and just think, "Ki, what am I doing?"
Exactly.
Sometimes it
Like
because
you're,
the, hmm,
yeah. It's like you're running and you don't know the direction that you're running in, kind of like that. Yeah.
Happens very commonly in high stress situations. Like if you have a deadline,
Yes.
if you have a
Yes.
presentation, if you have even in lectures it happens. Like you've been put on the spot that hey, talk about this, and then you just kind of lost. Hey, did I cover this? Did I cover that? And what if someone asks me something and I don't know? What do I say? So it's very
Yes.
stressful to even think of such scenarios, and then you just keep overworking, overlearning, and then it
Yeah.
puts you at a very high chance of burnout.
Exactly. Exactly. So taking a break, having a proper balance between break studies is a very important life skill that I think kids need nowadays. And going from 97, 98, giving less importance and moving to a state of understanding and having compassion towards yourself. So, like when I'm talking to you, more things are coming to my mind actually, Sakshi. So, like, say one more example that I would give you is I would ask, say, a student who would come, and I would ask that student, okay, if you see your friend who's studying day in and day out, and usko 98% आया है मगर that person is crying because उसको 99 चाहिए था, तो तुम उसको क्या बोलोगे? So generally students will be like, oh, I will say chill, it doesn't matter, तुम्हारा क्या result आता है कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. And then I would ask the student, like सच्ची फर्क नहीं पड़ता है उसको 98 99 आया कि नहीं आया. Will you stop like caring about that person if the person did not get the O grade? So generally my students like, of course it doesn't matter. And I'm like, how is it that we are more compassionate towards our friends than we are towards ourselves? We can say that to our friend that it really doesn't matter, and they genuinely mean it. They genuinely mean it when they say that it doesn't matter if you get O grade or A grade, whether you what results you get. I care for you and I love you, and it's not going to go down. They have that kind of compassion for the friends, but they do not have the similar kind of compassion towards themselves. So bringing this out, that you need similar compassion towards yourself also, is very important. Like the kind of compassion you can show to your best friend, can we learn to show similar compassion to ourselves?
Hmm. Yes, definitely. And since we're talking about compassion, let's also talk about gratitude, right? Gratitude, being
Yes,
grateful, and having
yes,
gratitude is very difficult, but also very important in times of high stress or if anything bad is going on in our lives. So I would like to ask you a question. In your
yes,
experience as a professor, as a psychologist, how can gratitude, meaning making, or purpose help buffer the effects of academic stress?
yes. Okay. So let me start off with meaning making first and foremost. So, I had a student who came to me some last year or 2 years back, who said that she was really disappointed because she wanted to take psychology and she didn't get it because of 1 or 2 percentage. Okay, so because of the cutoff, and she didn't get in. And she was just like 18, I think, FI first year graduate student, and she was just like 18 or 19. And she was talking to me, and she was really talking as if like her life is over and this and that. And sadly that is how generally people say you can remove psychology, make medicine, whatever. So then I just asked her that, okay, why did you want to take up psychology? Is it because you want to help people, and or is it because you wanted to help yourself? I said you can help other people and you can help yourself even without taking psychology. You don't necessarily need to take psychology to help. So when I asked her, why did you want to take up psychology? She said that I wanted to be, I wanted to help myself. I wanted to help other people. I'm like, this is not the only way to do so. If this is the higher purpose of your life, the purpose of your life was to help other people, you can do it through that. And if you really want to learn about psychology, you don't need a formal psychology program to study psychology. You can pick up a book. There are so many Udemy courses online which are available. Like life has thrown open amazing amount of opportunities to learn about something, and you don't necessarily have to be in that field. So identifying the purpose and the meaning, higher purpose and the meaning would always, always, always be very, very important. I'd like to give one more example. Again, I was as a part of physiotherapy. There is one psychology paper that students of physiotherapy and occupational therapy have to study. So I used to teach in psychology to physiotherapy students in KEM. And I was once traveling by train and I met one of my students. So they studied psychology, I think, first year or second year only. So this student was 2 years ago. She was now in her final year of something, final year of physiotherapy or something. And she was talking to me at that point of time about how language has become a challenge for her. And because of she's not fluent in English and she can't write papers, she's not getting good marks, and how that is disappointing. And at that point of time, I was also working at Fine Hospital as a consultant psychologist. So I told her that, do you really believe that after 3 or 4 years, when you start seeing your patients as physiotherapy, do you think it will really matter कि तुमको कितना percent आया था in in your physiotherapy exams? Will the patients care what percentage you got in your exam? Will your patients care that you cannot speak fluent English? And I said, I told her, and I was really genuine and honest to her. I said, I am so envious of you that you can speak Marathi, because I go to Sion Hospital and I'm not able to talk in Marathi. I'm trying my best, tutti futti Marathi, and I find that patients or clients are not able to communicate to me very openly because I'm not able to speak in Marathi. I'm like, how does it matter if you can't write your answers in English? 5 साल बाद कोई पेशेंट आके नहीं बोलेगा कि आई सेड के मेरे को ग्रेजुएशन में कितना मार्क्स मिला था पता है. आई आस्क्ड हर. शी सेड नहीं. आई सेड कितना परसेंटेज पता है आपको? नहीं. मैं बोली अगर मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि मुझे ग्रेजुएशन में 55% मिला था, विल आई बिकम लेस ऑफ अ टीचर टू यू? वुड यू फील दैट अरे बाप रे ऐसी टीचर? सो शी सेड नो, बिल्कुल नहीं. आई सेड एग्जैक्टली, एग्जैक्टली. So identifying the higher purpose and higher meaning, in the sense like exam is just one pathway to where you want to go, always keeping that vision in mind, that seriously at the end of the day, it doesn't matter your patients, your clients, people who you help out, okay, are not going to come back and ask you kitna percent mila tha. And they're not going to be judging you on that. Does that answer your question? So that is purpose and meaning making. In terms of gratitude, I think, also being grateful of what your strengths are. Like I was telling that student that, be grateful that you can speak in Marathi. Like that is a challenge for me. So what is it? What comes easily to you is my challenge. So, and see what works. Be grateful for what skills you have and what support you have around you. And that can also help you in dealing with stress.
Yes, gratitude is also very important. Like I remember when I was a hosteler in masters, and being a hosteler means that you're automatically just near your class building, right, in the campus itself. And I remember just thinking to myself, oh, exam is coming, it's going to be very hard. I can't study that much. But then I just remember that I have to be grateful for what I have. That the class is near
Correct.
to me. And then niche hi canteen hai, so I could just go anytime, grab a bite in the evening, afternoon, morning. And I had my classmates nearby, so there was that. And then I thought of my other batchmates who were not hostelers, who lived outside in PGs or had to travel. So I thought about them that, oh, how much would they have to go? 2 hours travel, 3 hours travel, and then if it were raining, they had to come by those rocky roads and rickshaws, and that really made me grateful of
Yeah.
my time and what I had at that moment, despite there being a lot of stress, exam stress, and everything. So yes,
I
gratitude.
think even any small thing, like even if you can, while studying in the night, if you can get up and like just get a cup of coffee for yourself, you should be. I think it's a something to be grateful for. Like you can get up in the night and get a cup of coffee while you're studying. So yeah, the best thing is that you be and you can be grateful for everything which is there around you. Everything.
Yes. And I remember the gratitude exercise that L.S. Raheja did recently for Mental Health Month, that you made a gratitude tree in the auditorium, I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
You stuck
Yeah.
that, you made a tree, everyone made a tree, and they stuck that. Everyone used sticky notes to talk about their something they're grateful
Whatever
for.
they are
Yes,
grateful
that was a
for.
very nice activity.
And even maintaining a gratitude diary, like I did this with my daughter when she was very young. I encourage my students to do it. Write any three things that you're grateful for in the night before sleeping, and write it down, not just say it in your head. But it can be like a small pocket diary. It doesn't have to be a big diary, but a small diary, and you just find three things that you were grateful for about in that day. Through the day, what are the three things that you're grateful for? Just doing that can be a huge stress buster, not just for exam stress, for any kind of stress. And kids, I tell my kids right now who have exam stress, they're very lucky because the in a way, at least some of them, not all of them, but at least some of them, the only stress they have is exam. When you grow up and when you become adults, life throws so many curveballs at you. Like you cannot have like a life which does not have stress is going to be there. So maintaining a gratitude diary is something that will help you in a long term also, like irrespective of exam, this exam stress, job stress, whatever, whichever, family stress, whatever the stress is, but maintaining a gratitude diary will, I think, works amazing.
Yes. And let's move on to the next question. That a lot of us
Yes.
have many thoughts that if I score 90, if I score 80, if I score 70, my value will be based according on to that percentage or to that grade, right? So how can we help students internalize the idea that their value is not defined by their results?
Yeah. So firstly, like I said, that the like the perspective, we can do something called as a perspective shift exercise. Now, this is a very simple exercise and it's a very powerful exercise. So say right now there is a student who's got in 10th, the person has got say 70%. They were expecting 90, but they've got 70. Perspective shift is like I will tell her, person A, I will tell the person A that you go back to when you were 7 years old. How will 7-year-old react to the fact that you got 70% instead of 90? What will a 7-year-old say to this? So 7-year-old will probably say, "Kya, what is, how does it matter?" Now you go forward. Say right now you are say 18 years old. Go to when you are 40 years old and let the 40-year-old look back and say, तुमको 10th में 70% आया instead of 90. What would their reaction be to this? How would they respond to it? So having a perspective shift, even in terms of perspective shift with parents, like look at yourself from your mother's eyes or your father's eyes. You getting 70%, even though they might be upset with you and they might say, Kyare 90% aana chahiye tha, do you really believe that they love you less because of that? Look at yourself from your best friend's perspective. Do you think it matters to your best friend that you've got 70% instead of 90%? So having a perspective shift, if you are, just imagine yourself. So if the person wants to be like in corporate job or something, or your client, just imagine yourself in that field with your client. And do you think that client will matter कि आपको 70% मिला था instead of 90%? Or will they look at how you're working? So kind of having a perspective shift, like, not what happens is it becomes big because I am trapped in the moment and I'm looking at this event only from right now's perspective. So we've all had this experience where we feel that this is the most important thing in my life, and then like after 6 months you realize, अरे मैंने उसको इतना बड़ा शक्ल दे दिया था. Did I really make such a big deal out of it? Like, and it has happened to all of us at some point or the other. It has happened to all of us where we realize after 7 months we're like, oh, really? was was I giving it so much of importance? So giving a perspective shift can help a person realize that, firstly, my value does not depend on that. Even that exercise where you tell the person that will your love, will you value your best friend on the basis of percentage that they get? So if you do not value your best friend, or if you do not value your, say, if you have a younger sibling, anything that can bring out this in a person, that if your younger sibling or somebody that you love, they got less percentage, will your value for that person come down? And most of the times they say no, because nobody does that now for other people. But for us, it's like, oh, it's my value. So simple exercises like this can help a person realize that, my value is much more than marks. Anything. My value is much more than anything that is, any kind of number that is put on me.
Yes,
Does that
and
answer,
I also
does that
feel like,
answer your question?
uh-huh. I also feel like it has a few factors that play a role. Like there is a self-expectation, then there is societal pressure, and the fact that competition begins at such an early age. Like for example, when I remember when I was in first or second standard, I had a home tutor who used to almost every week she used to tell me that there was this one student, a child who she tutored. Constant comparison, constant, like she used to always give her example that hey, she won this prize today, or hey, she topped a class, she got A grade, she got 3 stars in a test, and oh, she won this contest. Can you do that? Like it was
Yeah,
very that tone, and it definitely like at that age it made me question myself that hey, will I be worth it
right.
if I'm not doing
Yeah,
all of that? And it set a very indirect expectation at that age, and which definitely
yeah,
contributes in molding the mindset of children.
yeah. So that's a very good point that you brought about, Sakshi. So, like I said, fortunately, unfortunately, see, till a certain age, children are like sponges and they will absorb everything that you give them. So, at a very young age, if a child is told that, your value is completely dependent on the marks that you get, okay, the child will grow up believing that. However, one good thing that happens is that when we grow up, after a certain point, once our logical thinking develops, we do have the capacity to think and not accept every message that has been given to us. That is one very important thing. How can I make sure that I get out of this? So, say, for example, I tell this to my students, like, till a particular age, whatever you believe about yourself, whatever ideas you have about yourself, are completely, in a way, based on, to a great extent, on the environment that you are in. But after a particular age, you cannot blame your environment completely, because the responsibility comes to you to look at all your beliefs and see how these beliefs are helping me or hindering me. So this is a process that every person needs to go through, at a particular age. I think they need to go through, everybody should go through this age, where they are re-examining all of their beliefs, even if it is a right belief, but I want to re-examine whether this belief fits into me or not. Coming to the competition part, there is a lot of competition which is created in this in the society, which I feel is an artificial competition. I'm sorry, but this is what I believe. I believe it is an artificial competition, because we are right now living in a day and age where absolutely your degree or your marks does not impact the standard of living that you have. It absolutely, we are no, matlab, I don't think we are in that age. Like, even if I talk about myself, say, when I was growing up and when I was in school, which is like around 30 years ago, 35 years ago, we were very restricted in terms of what you can do to be successful. But now there are people who are, like, having amazing standard of living, and they are earning, and they are self-sufficient, and they are skilled, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the marks that they have got. So once again, like, marks, only thing that they do is they open the door to certain areas, but it is not. Now we have amazing amount of opportunities. Our youngsters now, they have opportunities, they have various arenas through which they can come up in life. It is no longer that 90% 10th mein aaya to you're successful in life. There is no such simple arithmetic formula which is there. Your exam marks no longer reflect what you are going to get in your life. So we have seen examples around us where people who have got like really great marks, amazing marks, get a job. They get a job, they earn with like say like good 70,000-80,000 per month. And then there are people who have not studied anything. I'm no way saying that you should give up your education, but there are two people who have not completed their graduation, started their own business, and they are earning a lot. They are financially quite stable. So there are a lot more avenues now. So what I mean when I say that the competition is artificial now in society, you no longer need to be in the race. If there is too much of rat race, change the race, change the background, change the arena, get out of the race. It's no longer your success in life is no longer defined by the education that you do. It's more skill based now. It's more about skills. I hope that answers your question. So yeah, there is still like yeah, there is competition. Unfortunately, yes, there are. I wish I could say that it doesn't happen, but it still happens. There are parents who would still force their kids that exam बहुत important है, marks important है. But after a particular point, the person has to take responsibility for their own thinking, their own belief system. And
Yes.
we, as I think, psychologists, and like what you're doing right now, we can spread this awareness that you no longer are now victim of whatever has happened, or you no longer have to take all the beliefs, absorb all the beliefs which are given to you. Even if in your family your value is made with terms of your marks, but think about it. Is it really? Nobody's value can be put by some number. It just doesn't make sense. Whatever
Hmm.
that number may be. No, that number can be the income that you earn. The a number can be like your age. It can be anything. Your value is not cannot be associated with a number. This doesn't make sense to me.
Yes. So finally, what would your one message be to students on this mental health week?
My one very important message to students, which I tell all my students also, I tell my daughter, everybody who meets me, that nothing is more important than your physical and your mental health. Nothing is more important. Because if you have your physical health and your mental health with you, then whatever the situation is, you will be able to handle it, whatever the situation is. So invest some amount of time to take care of your physical health and your mental health. Both are important. So invest some time. So when it comes to physical health, uh, clean eating, a little bit of exercising. I'm not saying बहुत ही ज़्यादा zumba वगैरह करो. Any yoga, any simple flexibility exercises. Even in terms of mental health, like digital detox, like, have 2 hours, or, like 1/2 day where you're not looking at any screen, spending some time by whatever nature we have in Mumbai, whatever little is left, some time by yourself, something of those sorts, writing diary, gratitude, journal, spend investing some amount of time everyday basis will help. So just like muscles, muscles, people nowadays they go to gym and they work out a lot because it's one of the part of like my physical image, also self image has to be good. So एक दिन में मसल नहीं बनता है, हम लोग को जाके थोड़ा वेट उठाना पड़ता है, 4-5 महीना मेहनत करेंगे तो तब जाके you have something, that muscle strength built हुआ है, you can show something. Similarly, that much amount of time needs to be invested in your mental health also. So अगर एग्जाम स्ट्रेस सडनली आ गया, उसके एक दिन पहले if I start writing gratitude journal, it might help. But what will help is some practice every day will help. So like if you like say if you're exercising every day for 15 minutes, it is much better than exercising once in 15 days for 3 hours. Similarly, 15 minutes of like something for mental health will definitely be much more important than something that, like you do 3 hours workshop one day, and give more importance. Physical and nothing in the world is more important than physical and mental health. Nothing.
Yes, definitely. So that's a beautiful message and definitely very important for all the students experiencing exam stress or just having a hard time in school, colleges,
Yeah.
institutions. It's growing more common these days, unfortunately. And
Yes.
hopefully, students have a support system and good company around them to keep them afloat among the chaos and the
Yeah.
competition.
Yes.
So we are done with the question and answer session, and I would just like to thank you, Neha ma'am, for joining us for Mental Health Week and sharing your experience and your knowledge to spread awareness about mental health and exam competition, student stress. It's definitely needed, and the growing concern of mental health is, yes,
Yeah.
it's very obvious.
Like it's thank you so much, Sakshi. It's my pleasure and my privilege to be here. And at any point of time, like really, it's my privilege to be associated with Sisters Living Works. And whatever I can, whenever I can, however I can, I'll be there.
So thank you everyone, and I hope everyone has a good mental health week.